Before a sword is raised, the battle is already being decided, not by strength, not by numbers, but by something most people never see. Tempo, the rhythm that dictates who moves first, who hesitates, who panics, and who breaks. Because when you control tempo, you control decisions. When you control decisions, you control outcomes. And when you control outcomes, you control the battle, without needing to win it the hard way. Sun Tzu didn't teach war as violence. He taught war as timing, as pressure, as rhythm. And today, you're going to learn how to control tempo so completely that the enemy begins to fight your war without realizing they've already lost. Sun Tzu repeatedly points to a truth that modern people forget. Battle is not just clash. Battle is structure. It is made of signals, pace, supply, terrain, morale, information, and time. Whoever controls those controls the conflict. Tempo is the invisible weapon that binds it all together. Tempo is when you move, when you stop, when you speed up, when you slow down, when you strike, and when you refuse to strike. It is the difference between a calculated fight and a desperate scramble. And Sun Tzu's genius is this. He teaches you how to steal time from the enemy and turn it into your advantage. So in this video, we'll break down Sun Tzu's tempo doctrine into practical principles. 1. Set the rhythm before contact. 2. Move fast where the enemy is slow. 3. Use stillness as control, not passivity. 4. Force the enemy. Sun Tzu teaches that war is decided by conditions, before steel ever meets steel. He emphasizes planning, calculations, and assessment, because the commander who prepares effectively does something powerful. They enter the battlefield, already controlling the situation. Tempo begins here, because tempo is not only speed. Tempo is the power to decide when the battle truly begins. If you rush into conflict, the enemy gains tempo over you. You are reacting. You are chasing. You are on their timeline. But when you control tempo, you do the opposite. You choose the moment of engagement. You choose the angle. You choose the conditions. You choose what the enemy is allowed to see. Sun Tzu repeatedly warns against fighting blindly or emotionally. Sun Tzu praises speed again and again, but not reckless speed. He teaches a specific kind of speed, the speed of arriving before the enemy is ready. That is tempo. Tempo is not always fast. Tempo is fast at the right point, slow everywhere else. In the art of war, Sun Tzu emphasizes attacking where the enemy is unprepared, appearing where you are not expected. That's tempo control in its purest form. You steal the enemy's preparation time, forcing them into panic. Because once the enemy panics, they waste time. They scatter tempo. In modern life, people confuse movement with progress. Sun Tzu would call that a beginner's mistake, because movement can be panic. Movement can be noise. Movement can be confusion. Stillness, when chosen, signals control. One of Sun Tzu's deepest themes is that you must remain composed, hide your intentions, and maintain order. The commander who maintains order while others lose it gains a battlefield advantage before the strike. Stillness is how you conceal intentions, preserve energy, force the enemy to reveal themselves, and create pressure without committing. When you do nothing, strategically, tempo belongs to the one who asks the questions. If you are answering questions in war, you are behind. If you are constantly responding, you are being led. Sun Tzu's strategy repeatedly aims at one outcome: force the enemy into reaction. Reaction is slower than action. Reaction is emotional. Reaction is exhausting. When the enemy reacts, they make rush decisions. They chase rumors, they overcommit to feints. They guard too much territory. They split strength. They lose shape. Sun Tzu speaks about deception as essential. Sun Tzu speaks about energy, about how force is accumulated and released. This is one of the most important tempo lessons in the entire text. You don't win by constant effort. You win by stored power and well-timed release. Tempo is not only timing. Tempo is momentum management. Think of a drawn bow. The strength isn't in the moment the arrow flies. It's in the tension built beforehand. The same is true in battle. Preparation is tempo. Logistics is tempo. Discipline is tempo. Sun Tzu places enormous emphasis on terrain. Why? Because terrain doesn't just shape movement. It shapes timing. Terrain decides how fast forces can travel, where they must slow down, where they can be ambushed, where they are visible, where they are trapped. Tempo is not only psychological, it is physical. If you force the enemy into difficult ground, you steal their time. Their movements become delayed. Their supply becomes strained. Their decisions become rushed. And in the art of war, one of Sun Tzu's most practical teachings is about cost. War drains resources. Distance drains strength. Prolonged campaigns drain morale. This matters because fatigue is tempo poison. A tired force cannot act decisively. A hungry force hesitates. A stretched army loses coordination. Sun Tzu warns against long wars because time is not neutral. Time is a weapon used against you. But if you control tempo, you can turn time into a weapon against the enemy. How? By forcing them to march unnecessarily, mobilize repeatedly, defend false threats, maintain constant readiness, waste supply. Sun Tzu stresses that an army must have clear command, consistent signals, and order. Why? Because tempo isn't a feeling. Tempo is an operational capability. You cannot move quickly as a unit if command is unclear. You cannot strike at the right moment if coordination fails. Sun Tzu teaches deception not as trickery for its own sake, but as strategic invisibility. If the enemy can read your pattern, they can time your moves. If they can time your moves, they can intercept you. So you become formless. Formlessness is tempo dominance. Because when you have no consistent shape, you have no predictable rhythm. Tempo control is not endless movement. It is the preparation for a single decisive moment. Sun Tzu wants victory with minimal cost. That means you do not strike when the enemy is ready. You strike when their system fails. The decisive moment often looks like a widened spacing, delayed signals, scattered units, hesitation after a feint, emotional overreaction, fatigue at the end of forced movement. Your job is to manufacture this moment through tempo pressure. And then, you do not hesitate, because the window closes quickly. A strategist is patient for a long time, and ruthless for a short time. Sun Tzu praises commanders who seize advantage when it appears, not impulsively, but decisively. So here is the core doctrine. Control the rhythm, wait for the fracture, strike into the gap, not with anger, with inevitability. Sun Tzu's battlefield is external, but the same mechanics rule your internal wars. Your emotions have tempo. Your habits have tempo. Your distractions have tempo. If you cannot control your internal rhythm, you will never control external conflict. Because people lose battles the same way they lose their lives. They react, they rush, they get provoked, they waste energy, they fight at the wrong time. To apply Sun Tzu's tempo doctrine to your life, remember, don't respond immediately when provoked. Don't rush decisions because someone demands urgency. Don't chase every fight. Choose terrain that benefits you. Conserve energy and strike when conditions favor you. Become unreadable to people who want to manipulate your rhythm. In every arena, business, relationships, leadership, self-discipline, the one who controls tempo controls outcomes. If someone can dictate your pace, they can dictate your performance. If they can dictate your performance, they can dictate your future. So you must reclaim tempo, not with aggression, with mastery. Sun Tzu's greatest lesson isn't how to fight It's how to make fighting unnecessary. And tempo is the most elegant tool for that, because tempo is control without chaos, pressure without panic, power without noise. So remember this: when you control tempo, you control decisions. When you control decisions, you control the battle. Be calm long enough to see the rhythm. Be disciplined enough to refuse manipulation. Be strategic enough to create the fracture. And when the moment arrives, strike. Not with emotion, with certainty.